Well guys, it's time for another day of Atomic Heart. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So when we left off, I was still kind of confused and lost in some underground mystery place that had been overrun by robots. And after a little bit of more exploring and progress, I came to this weird thing with these carts that move up and down some weird like alleyway. They all seem broken down, some kind of transport system that used to exist before the robots destroyed everything. And then I came to a dead end, and my main character talks about how much fun it is to swim inside of polymer. So apparently he's done this before, so we've learned how to swim inside of goo. And of course we emerged from the other side to another mysterious puzzle that I couldn't figure out how to solve. Apparently there's some kind of clue nearby and we gotta find it. Thankfully the game just marked the objective for me so I didn't have to actually find it back in this little alleyway. There's a piece of paper on the ground that shows what 4 cylinder things I've gotta push apparently, and some dead guy talked to me. So that was cool. Now time to go back and solve this puzzle. Oh yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I guess 1, 2, 3, 4 the other way. Alright, it had a certain order it needed to go. Gonna pull off the giant fidget spinner and we can actually ride in one of these carts, like some kind of roller coaster or something, and that's just what we're gonna be doing now. I don't know that I would necessarily trust this in real life, but hey, it's just a video game. Let's go ahead and do it. Ah yes, roller coaster after the apocalypse. Surely nothing could possibly go wrong here. I'm sure everything is going to be just fine. No way we're gonna die here at all or get injured in any way, shape, or form. I'm absolutely confident that this will just end perfectly well and fine. But then I came upon what was the most difficult part I will probably ever face in this entire game. Apparently there was some way I needed to get across here and it was not intuitive at all, to be honest with you. I was here for a good 5 or 10 minutes before finally realizing that there's brightly colored things on the wall that I can apparently parkour. So at this point I learned, oh my god, there's actually parkour in this game. Kind of reminds me of some old Legend of Zelda vibe. And they even got that mechanic of like jumping from one to the other. I didn't quite make it, thankfully there's a ledge. And then we come to the end of this one and hey, there's the like 10 FPS worm again. So yeah, I guess I almost died, but it didn't feel like I could die. And then we came to the second hardest part of the entire game. I was extremely confused yet again because I came over here and I went into this hole just to explore, and then the giant worm thing went by again and I'm like, okay, alright, cool, I don't know, whatever, sure, there he is. So now I'm gonna go on, and with no warning or explanation at all as to what I'm actually supposed to do, I just walk through here, and I just die. And I was so confused. I was like, okay, there was no warning, no explanation at all of what was about to happen. So naturally, I thought maybe I just went too slow. So this time I rush as fast as I can, and I just die again. So after dying twice to an unexplained mechanic, I realized maybe I'm supposed to hide in this hole over here? So I go in this hole, and then the thing goes across, and then I go. So another part, it was extremely not intuitive and very confusing, but hey. So he opened up a hole in the side that we can climb through in order to progress further. And then after cheesing a fight with another black, like clothing mustachio man, using my shock ability, I eventually came to the most confusing puzzle in the entire game. So it gives you a marker to go into this little, like, I don't even know what this thing is, a little shaft. And you go to the end, and there's just nothing here. And I was lost here for like a good 5 minutes. Now maybe I'm just stupid, but I was very confused. So like I said, after about 5 minutes, I finally realized that I needed to look up. There was apparently just like a hole on the ceiling. So, okay, cool, we got out of there, on to the next part. Now we gotta go and play in traffic and hopefully not get killed. Alright, so we got through that, fast forward about 5 minutes, and we have to interact again with the overly sexualized upgrade machine. They forced me to interact with this in order to buy a character upgrade that makes me have a second wind type of thing. You know, it's like, oh, you take a bunch of damage and you're left with 1 HP instead of dying. You have to get this to go through the laser, blah, blah, blah. But okay, so we get this so we can jump through a laser apparently and survive and continue on to the game. Which then leads us to an area where we found our target. Here's apparently the guy who's made all the robots go insane. We're creeping around Assassin's Creed style in a cutscene, of course, because they don't actually do this in normal gameplay. And apparently we are going to get the bad guy. Alright, so we finally catch him, hands up, and of course we do the video game movie type thing of just staring at him for a good 3 minutes talking until eventually he says intruder and robots defend him. And of course he gets away. It wouldn't be a video game without the cliche, you know, doing absolutely nothing in the face of your target and then just him running away. Afterwards, of course, he stole some yellow orb, and we had to go find another yellow orb to go back and put in the door in order to open the door and chase the guy down. So now I've made it back. We're gonna put this orb in the door, gonna fight a few more flying robots maybe, and then we're gonna go ahead and try to chase this guy down. And then the game has me learn this mechanic of shocking these robot guys so I can climb on them. It makes them like temporarily stop so I can get up and jump into some goo and go swimming into the next room. And now things got really weird and really confusing, so I needed to go to this face thing and stick in its 5 eyeballs. These are canisters. And I got lost here for quite some time. So there were 2 more canisters, and they were even marked in the world. I could see the markers. And apparently I'm really dumb because the answer was right in front of me, but I looked around for a good 5 minutes before finally I realized there was just a giant hole of goo in the wall and I could just walk right through this wall over to the next room, of course. Alright, so I've returned with the last 2 eyeballs for the creepy face button, and this should open the door so we can go ahead and progress even further through this place to try to catch the bad guy. But shortly after that, I had to interact with the sexualized robot again in order to get a gun they forced me to get, which is actually really cool. There's a gun that uses the energy of my glove in order to shoot. The gun barely does any damage, but it's a way for me to conserve ammo while still having a ranged weapon. So that was kind of cool. That definitely was an upgrade I needed in order to conserve ammo. Also, while I was at this point, I decided to buy the frostbite upgrade and see how that thing does. It actually turned out it wasn't that bad. So after that, I did a bunch of rooms where I had to fight an obscene amount of flying enemies and robots and stuff. I swam through some more glue or goo or whatever that stuff is, polymer, and I come over to here and we find the guy. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. And apparently he had his head smashed in by some robot, and we found his corpse, which apparently was bad. Apparently we were supposed to take this guy alive, so of course it wouldn't be a video game without some kind of drama. So now we got him, we got this orb that he was carrying, and apparently this is what we need now in order to progress the game. So naturally the game leads you right back. It all wraps around full circle, and you're back to this weird birch tree in a capsule, and you need to take that plus the other yellow orb thing that you had before in order to power this place up. But that doesn't really open anything, and now for the most tedious part of this entire thing. It was so tedious. So now I need 4 filled canister things. And the game opens 1 door at a time so I can go into a room and go do a bunch of stuff to get a canister and then come back and pop it in, and it has me do all 4 crazy side rooms in order to do this, and it was obnoxious. So right after that, this game introduces us to the weird flower monsters that eat people's heads and then control their bodies like some kind of zombies. And this is going to be a big part of this next stuff that we have to do. But I quickly realized that on standard difficulty, I can pop them point blank with a shotgun and then swap to the energy gun and shoot 1 shot, and that's enough to consistently kill these guys. So they're really not that bad as long as I have shotgun shells. So it's really, they're not bad, but it was very interesting. Then we saw Wrecking Ball from Overwatch 2 make an appearance in this game and destroy all this glass and almost kill us. And then I made it to another room and decided to get the MP so that I can have some kind of pistol for additional ammo and more ways to kill enemies. So then it puts me into this weird grow room, and at this point I finally remembered I have the freeze ability, so I was trying this thing out, and in 1v1 type scenarios it's actually not bad because it'll just freeze them solid and then you can just beat them down with a melee weapon. But when there's like lots of enemies, it gets a little bit more complicated. So after killing a bunch of robots, I found a canister, gotta pop a canister in here, and now it tells me it's gonna take 30-something days, 35 days in order to fill the canister. So now I gotta do one of the most obnoxious parts of this entire place. But before I can do that, I gotta climb out of this vat, and this happened. So after about 3 to 4 minutes of struggling, hoping I could dislodge myself from thin air, I finally just bit the bullet, gave up, and had to unfortunately load my game back and do everything I just did a second time. Alright, fast forward, here we are. I did it all again, and now we get on this, like, service repair gondola thing. And this part was scripted so slowly, it was awful. So in order to make a full circle around this thing, I want to say it took like almost 10 minutes. This thing moved so slow. It stopped on the other side, had me do other stuff. This whole thing was just an insane ordeal. But a long story short, I had to shock each of these things to speed up the process so the canister would fill faster, so I could take it back and stick it into the birch tree. But on my way back, it had me go into this boiler room. So there were all these overheated boilers. And apparently I need to go over here and pick up one of these cryo orbs and stick it into the boiler somehow. But wait a minute. Can I just spawn more of these cryo orbs? It looks like the cryo orb pile is a static object, and it's literally just spawning new ones. Is there a limit to how many of these I can pick up? Things are starting to look a little interesting around here. So naturally, like any good Samaritan would do, I wrote an auto hotkey script that would hold down a button and let go of it in order to pick these up. That actually turned out it was super complicated because on keyboard, F was the pickup key, but for some reason using an auto hotkey script to press F did not interact with the game, so I had to rebind, picking up to left click, and then I had to make an auto hotkey script that would click, but that didn't fully work, and it turned out I had to hold left click for 100 milliseconds, then release it for 900 and repeat on a toggle, and I set that up because what good Samaritan could possibly live with himself without doing this, of course. So after like 45 minutes, it was time to test out the orbs. There's so many sounds going on, there's not enough sound channels in the world to play all the sound effects. So you might hear some insane noises here. So I went to the right and it shot me across like a rocket and my game hard hung. And at this point, I thought it was all for naught. I thought it was all over, but then suddenly it came through, thankfully. So I was able to play in the ball pit and then go back to work picking up more balls. So after another 30 minutes or so, things were coming along pretty nice in here. I had built myself a pretty big ball pit to play in, and unfortunately now the frame rate was dropping so bad I needed to spread these balls out so that way I could get them away from the ball spawner so I could get high enough frame rate to actually continue picking them back up. And then naturally I went back to picking up more balls. Ah yes, third time's the charm. We have another giant addition to the ball pit. And at this point, I was in shock that with maybe like thousands, I don't know, like 3,000 or so of these orbs spawned or something, the game actually was playing just fine, which kind of shocked me considering the fact that they have some kind of emissive light on them. I thought for sure it would blow up my graphics card, but it actually just didn't. I don't know what kind of witchcraft they pulled to make these things so efficient, but wow, I was actually super impressed. So after one final round of half an hour just picking up balls, I decided, okay, I don't think anything's gonna happen. There's probably no Easter eggs here. Nothing, it's not gonna crash my game. It's not even gonna slow it down. So I started to get bored and figured it was time to move on. So I went and I put the cryo orb into the boiler, and then I realized, wait a minute, more enemies are gonna spawn, and I can have friends to play with me in the ball pit. So as you can see, he really enjoys kicking the balls around, and it was just nice to have some friends to enjoy this with after I put so much time and effort into creating this ball pit. Ah yes, video games. It just would not be a video game without artificial intelligence controlling a non-player character and getting confused and just walking into a wall. And this guy was actually so excited about the ball pit, he was actually slow jogging through them to kick them around like some kind of soccer player. Dude, wait a minute, how did that ball get over there? Dude, one of the balls like glitched through the wall and was stuck over in the like weird, I don't even want to say it, thing that looked wrong behind the window. But yeah, so as sad as it was to move on after spending 2 hours making a ball pit, I figured it was probably time to move on. So I finally found myself at this creepy puzzle with animals and some kind of thing, and I had to turn these handles and activate all the right animals to get them all to light up green on the console. And after the last one, all the animals got spun into goo and turned into bloody paste, which then the glove informs me that this is how polymer is made. This is where they get the organic component from. And that led me to this plant room that really kind of just sucked. I had to reactivate these things with my shock ability and run around trying to not get killed by these plants and stuff. And there was this one robot in here that might have been invincible because I shot him with like 20 shotgun shells and realized I was wasting ammo, so this room sucked. I was in here for like 10 or 15 minutes in order to get a canister. So after a long battle, I finally got the canister, and then I spent another period of time, maybe 5 minutes, trying to figure out how the hell I get out of this room. Until I finally realized that it opened a door right next to the canister I picked up that was previously closed, and now I was able to escape. So after some parkour and some more Mustachio Man battles, I finally made it to this room, where the first time in the game I encounter another human being, or at least the first time underground. And this guy tries to kill me, and this is where things get really weird. Apparently there's a giant plant monster in the background, and he has to pump pesticides on it in order to keep it from going insane. I'm supposed to get more pesticides because he's panicking. We're almost out of pesticides, and I've got to go find us some more. So now for the terrible part. Down at the bottom right, you can see there's that yellow, like, train car looking thing. And I was in this room for what had to have been 10 or 20 minutes before finally realizing the mechanics of how this puzzle was supposed to work. I finally realized these little consoles, the up arrow makes the car move forward, and the little circle thing rotates one of the ground things, and I had to do a whole series of these things, and it was honestly just ridiculous. And then after the final one, it activates a cutscene for me to hit it, and we push the giant pesticide train car into the thing with there, and conveniently we just happen to have a cigarette to light up. Which of course the guy informs us we need to light it on fire for it to work, and he throws my cigarette and everything explodes. Which then leads to another cliche video game moment. My leg is stuck and I don't really use my gun or anything, and of course the guy gets one of the flower guys on his head, it eats his head, and that's the end of the guy, because of course no other human being can survive in this game except for the protagonist. Which then leads to a boss room with some plant guy, and I got myself stuck in this corner. Thank God for the freeze. And I had to use all of my med kits and have 1 HP in order to get out of this corner, and I thought I was dead for sure. In fact, something exploded at some point and killed everything, and I thought I was actually dead. But I wasn't dead because of that thing I got earlier that leaves me with 1 HP. So now I gotta fight this boss who hasn't even taken any damage yet when I have 0 meds left and I have like 1/4 of a bar of HP. So I played it super slow, fast forward about 5 minutes, shotgun this guy again, and we actually killed the boss. But we weren't out of the woods yet because there were still tons of flower things flying around stabbing at me. And after that, I finally made it back to the burst tree, and I stuck the canister in. And here's where I had a dumb moment where I didn't know what was going on. I put the canister in, and no new doors opened, and I needed another canister. So after running around for another 5 minutes, I realized I already had the canister. So I come in, I pop that in, and finally, we can get on past this one area. Which then leads me to the elevator moment. So there's an elevator that literally takes, I want to say, 3 minutes that you have to wait in an elevator in order to get out of this place. And finally, after like 5 hours of gameplay, I finally reach the outside world. But not so fast because it starts with a cutscene and I still can't do anything. But after a lengthy cutscene, I finally get to explore what I thought was going to be an open world until I realized that this game actually has barriers around all the areas. And while they did sell this game as a sort of open world game, it is not very open world. There's kind of contained areas you get to go in, and they're all surrounded by weird laser walls in order to control you. And that's just kind of the game role. So it's not really a true open world. I would say it's like a half open world kind of game. And after 10 minutes or so of being lost and not understanding where I was supposed to go, I finally went up to this place, and this is where I get some kind of call from Granny Xena again, who tells me to go over here, which leads to me almost getting murdered by a giant baby-looking robot, who then gets burned to death by Granny Xena's flying, jet-powered house. It's finally time to hang out with Granny Xena yet again, inside of her weird flying house. And this is where we get some kind of weird lore drop that, I don't know. Granny Xena is apparently hacking into some private, like, government meeting between the heads of the government and the guy who makes all the robots and stuff. And it was at this point, Granny Xena dropped some lore bomb where she hints that apparently she must have been dating one of these government people or something, or I don't know. It was really weird. She kind of hinted at, you know, some kind of affair or something. I'm not really sure. So then I went back to that tower I was at before. I was able to control it now, look at the different cameras in the area, control some camera, and then remotely control it in order to open some gate that was blocking me before and was blocking my progress. So naturally, after heading through the gate, I just book it and don't really fight anything. I just run straight through and ignore all the enemies. And after a very long journey of just running, I find this train. I go over here to some creepy robot who's like sucking on his own chest or something, and he tells me that I unfortunately need a train ticket in order to use the train. It gave me 4 options, and naturally the one that was furthest away from me, of course, was the guy who had the train ticket. So I head back, I give him the train ticket, and now he tells me he realizes I'm a government official and I don't even need a train ticket. And then I go on a train ride, and of course nothing bad could possibly happen in a world world of robots gone evil. So I'm casually on this train, and of course one of the Wrecking Ball Hammond guys from Overwatch 2 goes slamming into the train and blows everything up. At which point I am somehow magically confronted by some dude who I don't really know who he is yet, and he's telling me something about my boss and something I need to go do. And then he proceeds to run off, and I get, hit in the face by a crazy mustachio man yielding a baton. And after defeating him, the game informs me basically, welcome to the open world, you can go explore now. So at this point, I decided to take a break, get some upgrades and stuff, go make some videos and stuff for my YouTube channel, and I think this is about the place to stop this one, guys. This was day 2 of Atomic Heart. Here's what happened to me. I summarized it for you, and hopefully I'll make a day 3 and day 4 until eventually I've beaten this game, while simultaneously making all my little YouTube videos I gotta make in the in-between. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you did and you want to support me, feel free to check out the description of this video for social links, Discord and stuff, or also just to check out a game that I'm making on Steam called Art Gallery Simulator. There's a link for that in the description if you want to help me go wishlist that. But that's it, guys. This was day 2 of Atomic Heart. It's a pretty wacky game. Not quite what I was expecting. A lot of cliche moments and stuff happened today, but overall, it was pretty fun. Alright, guys, that's it for me. I will see you guys in the next one.